going to bake up a loaf of sourdough. We're gonna fry up some Italian fried chicken and serve that with a pumpkin pasta or a pumpkin Parmesan cream sauce with noodles. So let's start with our loaf here. This is the loaf that I was supposed to shave up at night the other day, and then I fell asleep, so it got a lot of proofing time. But the one I baked up yesterday baked up beautifully, so I'm hoping the same will happen with this one. I'm gonna do my kind of just a crisscross score on this one. There we go, and then we'll do just kind of a cute little wheat leaf down on each one. Do it upside down. And then we'll get this cooking in the oven at 500 degrees. I have my Dutch oven preheated. I popped it in there about, I want to say, like 30 or so minutes ago at 500. So it should be nice and hot. I'm going to slide this guy in here. There we go. It's a snug fit. But this is my big loaf. And lid going on. And we're going to bake this at 500 for 20 minutes. Then we will take the lid off and bake at 450 for 20 minutes with that lid off. So, nice preheated oven. I'm going to set my timer here for 20 minutes. And then we're going to start on our Italian fried chicken. So essentially I'm going to do a lovely kind of Italian seasoning spices to our chicken. And we'll bread it and fry it up there with it. Just some chicken breasts. Makes my son very, very happy. And then we'll work on our sauce. So let's get that. I'm going to just slide this over here for right now. So I have a little bit more room to work. And I can do this over here as well. Okay. So we've got 3 chicken breasts, which I will fillet in half and make into some bigger ones. And I want to say this is probably, I think, almost a little over 2 pounds of chicken. So good amount. We're going to start with about 2 cups of flour. And we're going to season that up with, got a good kind of collection here. We're going to add some onion powder. It's my new one. We used up a lot of it at lunch today. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of onion powder so we get that nice, good, savory flavor in it. It will also help give it a good golden color, but a good amount to really get that good flavor in there. So about 2 tablespoons. And then we are going to add in about, I've got lots of new spices today, a half a tablespoon of paprika. This is going to give it a nice savory flavor, very mild. Also give it a nice amber kind of color when you fry it. And then I'm going to use an Italian medley, same thing as an Italian spices. And we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of it, a good amount. So again, we have a really nicely seasoned up dredge. And then we're going to add in about a tablespoon of garlic salt. There we go. And then I'm going to grab a fork here and we're going to mix it in. While I'm over here, I realized I forgot to set out my eggs, but I'm going to use 4 eggs to make up the egg part of our batter. So I'm going to grab these out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll mix this up. Now this is going to be our base dredge, which we will coat our chicken cutlets in. And then after they have been dredged once, we are going to add about a cup of seasoned panko breadcrumbs. That way our chicken will have that extra crunch on it during that second kind of coating. Now you can also use regular breadcrumbs, but I do like the panko in the fact that they give you just a slightly bigger crunch. Go. And we'll give this a nice stir around. And just make sure you get any of those pockets of spices mixed in. But it's, again, make sure you put way more than you think is necessary in the spices, because this is what's gonna flavor up your whole chicken. And nobody wants to do the work for fried chicken and have bland fried chicken. Whoop, I almost dropped my egg. But it made me think over here. Let me turn my water up. We're gonna get that boiling and we'll drop our pasta in just a second. So I'm gonna crack my eggs, and then we're gonna whisk these up. Then we'll fillet our chicken and get ready to dredge these so they can be fried. This is one of my kids' favorite meals. Anytime I do like a creamy pasta with fried chicken, it makes them so happy. And we used, at lunch today, we made some pumpkin scones, and so I have some pumpkin left over, which whenever I use, you never really use a full can of pumpkin in any recipe, so I always try to find other ways to use that rest of it. So let's whip these guys up. You just want to make sure you don't have any egg whites that are, long and stringy, because when you go to bread them, what will happen is they'll get, kind of all like clumped up, and then it'll be like a soggy piece of chicken. Okay, let's get these guys filleted. And I'm going to fillet them all the way through. Try to cut against the grain. That's going to give you a more tender piece of chicken. Because these aren't super thick cuts, I don't need to pound them out. I kind of like them full without being pounded. Now when I do pork, like a pork tenderloin, I always pound those out, because pork is a little bit tougher in meat, and so I feel like that, pounding it out makes it a little bit more tender. Cut off this little bit of fat here. And again, we're gonna fillet this guy right through here just to thin it out, because you don't wanna leave it super thick or it will take forever to cook, and then you risk burning your yummy crust. There you go. So I've got my chicken all filleted up right here. Give my hands a quick rinse so that we can drop our noodles in. Okay, so I've got my water boiling here, nice and high, and we're gonna have some picatelli noodles.
A question, how was the lamb at lunch?
Oh, it was delicious. My husband said it was the best lamb burger outside made yet. I think the fresh sage and green onions just worked so well with it. And then of course, I just love a good gravy. I think that just added so much flavor. We're gonna add in our whole kind of pound of our noodles here. And let me get my pasta spoon, and we're gonna give this a quick toss. And then I am going to be using some of this pasta water in our sauce when we get to that stage. So we're gonna add a little bit of salt here. There we go. And these noodles, since they are a little bit denser, thicker noodles, they take about, between 12 and 15 minutes to cook. I want to cook them right before al dente. I don't want them to get too cooked up, because I want them to soak up some of my pasta sauce towards there. I'm going to fill my pan up with some oil so that when I am ready to start dropping these guys in, I can turn that heat on. And we just need a nice kind of thin coating on the bottom of our pan, enough to where it kind of coats it halfway through. On there, it's about a cup of olive oil for this 12-inch pan, but I don't need more than that. We don't need to turn it on yet, but let's get our dredging. Now when you dredge, be very careful and try to use just one hand so you've got a free clean hand to work with. So we're gonna do our first dredging, which is getting that base on there. And I always make sure I season up my flour first and not wait to add the spices, because this is the first layer that touches the chicken, meaning these spices are going to stick. Here we go. And then we will add some panko breadcrumbs in here once we're done with that. And that will add that nice kind of crunch layer to it. Now, I will say there is a lot of things you can add if you don't have breadcrumbs or panko breadcrumbs. You can crush up some crackers; those work well. Even if you have, I always say, corn flakes. I've seen it with corn flakes, potato chips, anything that gives a little extra crunch. You can always use that as well. But it does give you a bit more. Now, not complete like KFC extra crispy crunch, but it gets you more than just the basic breading. Okay, let's get this guy coated up here. And now we're gonna add in our panko breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna use my clean hand. If I should have opened it up, there we go. Just hopeful that I was gonna get it. And we're gonna add in about a cup of our breadcrumbs here. You want a nice seasoned breadcrumb. And we're gonna mix that in. And I'm just gonna use my hands to mix it in because we've got, it's already halfway dredged anyways. And just kind of coat it up. This is a little bit of a messy process. And now what we're gonna do is you're gonna take your chicken and we're gonna go into our breaded egg mixture and then into our crumb. So we're gonna go into our egg mixture here. And coat it up, make sure you don't have any flour powder or left up. And then we're gonna go into our next mixture. Try it again. This is important to do it with just one hand because it is a very messy process and you are gonna bread your fingers as well. I like to kind of press down on my cutlet to kind of help secure the breading on here so it doesn't fall off at all when you're frying. But that first base layer is what's really gonna be that binder, that glue that almost keeps it on. There we go. And into here, just kind of put it on and pat it down. And I will say, these are pretty good sized chicken cutlets here. And I always say, you start, but they get bigger and bigger with the more that you add onto it there. Some of these I probably could have even filleted smaller.
You have a question? Could you air fry these?
You could definitely air fry these or even do them in your oven on like a convection bake at 25. Definitely to get you that kind of a lighter crisp. The only thing that I would do after I have this is spritz them with a little bit of olive oil. I feel like that would give a nice little extra crunch to it because it needs just a little bit of kind of a fat base in there. But now they make you can get the spritz olive oil, you can get the air fryer, like the the pan that's olive oil. So you can get a couple of things to give you a little bit of that coating here.
You have a question? Is the dredge just flour?
It is flour with panko breadcrumbs, onion powder, paprika, garlic salt, and Italian spices. So we've got a good amount of Italian spices in here, 2 tablespoons. There we go. And we're gonna coat this next guy up, get him nice and thick. There we go. And in 2 here. Go. Pat it down, make sure it sticks on there well. And then we'll check our time because I think I don't want to drop these in just yet until I see my timing on there because I don't want to get halfway through and then have to go get the sourdough and take the lid off. But here we go. Let's pat these guys down. And once our pasta is done cooking, we will be able to start up on our sauce. And the sauce is actually fairly quick to make, which is a lovely thing. Take a little pinch right here, a little extra. But now we've got our kind of our breaded up chicken. Give my hands a good wash. heating up my oil since we are there. I've got, this is for when we're transferring our chicken out after we fry it. I like to put mine on paper towels on a baking sheet to soak up that extra grease, but you can also put them on like a cookie drying rack, cookie cooling rack. I'm gonna have my oil starting to heat up. Let me give my noodles a nice little bit of a toss here. They still have, you know, probably like 8 more minutes left on here. But I think they're kind of cool noodles. They kind of look like baguettes to me for some reason. I don't know why that's what sticks in my mind. But like little teeny tiny baguettes. Or they also remind me of Spätzle, which is like a German pasta that you kind of squeeze through your fingers to shape the form of the noodles. Here. Okay, I've got my oil heating up. I'm gonna just clean up this counter here, just do a little bit of a clean. And then we can start prepping up our onions and our garlic for our pasta. One more paper towel. And then I'm gonna give my pasta down just a smidge here since it's got a nice kind of a full high heat on it. Okay. Slide this guy up here since we don't need those yet. And then let me grab my knife. Here. They always say if you rest like a wooden spoon over the top, it's supposed to prevent it from boiling over. Doesn't always work. Okay, let's get our onion prepped up for our sauce, and then we're gonna do some garlic cloves. So this is a really simple kind of sauce that we're gonna make here. We're gonna use about a cup of pumpkin puree, and we're gonna season it nice and savory with some garlic, green onions, and really just keep it kind of that base flavor there. And it's gonna just be really lovely. It will have just this very subtle pumpkin-y note to it, but you'll get a lot of the Parmesan cream flavor to it. So it's kind of a great way to get the kids to eat pumpkin if they don't want to have it in there. I think our oil is nice and hot for us to start because it is already bubbling. So I'm gonna turn it down to about a 5. But I will check just to the side, make sure it's just not a random drop of water in there. Yep, we're good. So let's put our first 3 cutlets in here. Again, you don't want to fry it over too high of heat, right at a medium. That way it will get a nice golden fry on it instead of cooking too fast where it would be raw. But have the right outside coloring. So cook over a medium heat. And I always say err on the side of going low and slow versus high and burning, because you'll crash and burn. Here. I'm just gonna do 3 cutlets at a time. I always find it's important to try to make sure there's just a little bit of space between each piece of chicken. And then sometimes I do chicken tenders, I can get more in here, but you don't wanna have them crowding up on top of each other. Okay, let's check out our noodles. Let me give them a good stir. You just don't want any to stick to the bottom of your pan.
Yeah, question. What type of oil?
So I'm using olive oil because I love olive oil in here, and it's the main oil I buy in here. I don't heat my oil high enough to get to the smoking point on it, which is around, like 450, 500. I like to fry my chicken at around 350, just a nice medium thing. That way it cooks long enough to cook the chicken all the way through, keeping it nice and juicy, but also keeping the crust, or the skin, I should say, golden and crispy. Okay, let's prep up our onion for our sauce here. We are going to mince up our onion nice and fine. So I'm just doing a small dice right now, but then we're gonna go over it several times because I want the onion flavor and everything in my sauce, but I don't wanna have super big chunks of onion that it kind of just is like, it feels like it's an added vegetable. I want it to really marry into the sauce. So we're gonna mince it up. That way you'll just have this just great little kind of caramelized bits of onion that will be fantastic. There we go. And then we're gonna do our garlic next. But I think we'll have to go take our lid off our sourdough before we can get to that. There we go. So nice and small. That way they will be just little tender, delicious kind of onion bits instead of just like a big, you know, huge piece. Especially since our pasta is more of a smaller, kind of a delicate form of pasta. You know, if I had longer noodles, I might do like thin, stringy onions. But for this, I want kind of smaller bits. There we go. So I've got one yellow onion. It was about a medium-sized one. We've got those kind of minced up now. Be ready to throw on there in just a second. Let's check our pasta. I'm going to test it now because we're getting kind of to that close time when they might be done. Still needs like 5 minutes. I'm going to turn it up. Let me grab a small little dish because we are going to be reserving that pasta water. And then we can start heading over here because there is 20 seconds left before that timer goes off. So let me give this a good rotation. And we can start taking out our sourdough to take the lid off. Okay, we got 7 seconds left. Okay. So we baked it at 500 for 20 minutes, and now we're gonna bake at 450 for 20 minutes to get the nice kind of golden brown crust on it. There we go. So I'm going to cancel my oven, change my temperature down to 450. You want to change your temperature 500. It'll give you a really dark crust, which will be crunchy. And I like a chewy with a little bit of crispy on there. So I find 20 minutes at 450 gives you this perfect golden brown, which makes the crust more chewy versus super crunchy, because that's one of my kids' complaint with sourdough is that it can get very crunchy. Especially the next day. Okay, let's give these noodles a nice little stir. And then we're going to check our fried chicken, see if we're ready to flip it. Grab a spatula. Beautiful. Those are perfect. Nice golden brown. We have a slightly more amber color because of the paprika in there, and then you can see all of the lovely spices from the Italian seasoning in there. I almost said Italian sausage. I'm going to rotate this guy up here so he has the hottest part. And again, I'm cooking it over about almost a 5. So low and slow. Don't go too high, or you'll burn it. We want a good amount of garlic in our pasta sauce because garlic is our main spice here. So I'm going to start mincing that up. Now I'm not going to throw the garlic in there when I cook the onions first. I'm going to let the onions have a minute to themselves in the pan to start kind of caramelizing up. Because onions, I find, just need a little time to themselves to really shine. And once you start adding in other vegetables, they just don't caramelize up as nicely. So we'll mince up our garlic here. Now, this is a sauce that I recommend using fresh garlic for versus your garlic, because this garlic is going to be part of the star of the sauce. It's going to complement the pumpkin, but it's going to be the big flavor in here. Okay. Get this nice and small now. Now, if you want to be more mild in it, then leave your garlic chunks a little bit bigger. The more cuts you make on the garlic, the more flavor you will get out. So if you want it to be a little bit more mild, you can leave them slightly bigger, or you could use less and just mince them more. But I love the garlic flavor, so we're going to really get this up a nice mince. And then we're going to check our pasta, see where we're at with it. And hopefully it'll be ready for us to reserve some water and put it out. Grab a noodle here. Just about. I'm gonna grab a ladle and we're gonna ladle out, I want about almost 2 cups of starchy water here, because we do have that pumpkin that we want to thin out. There we go.
You have a question? Are you Swedish?
I am Swedish. I'm guessing you must have seen tomten or god jul or some of my Swedish Christmas decorations up. So my mother was born in Sweden, and she lived there until she was about 7 years old. Before her parents moved here, my grandfather was a nuclear physicist. And then she kind of bounced around to a bunch of different countries before coming back here for college. And that was like 50 years ago. So, been here, but yes. Let me get almost there. I always say err on taking a little extra, because you'd rather have too much that you don't pour in versus not enough. So here's our nice starchy water for our pasta. Put that over here. And then we're gonna strain our noodles and we'll start working on our sauce. And then we'll be ready to take our chicken off here in the first round.
Question, will you be sharing lots of Christmas recipes?
I will, and we'll do that. I have a lot of Christmas recipes and then Swedish recipes that we do for our smorgasbord. So yes, and lots of Christmas cookies. So good little shake. So we've got our little noodles right there. Now you don't need to add any butter or anything on it. When we coat it with the sauce, any noodles that have stuck together will come apart. So you don't need to worry about that. I turn this on, and then we are going to be using some butter as the base to our sauce, because it's going to just taste better than olive oil. So we're going to use, since we've got a good amount of sauce that we're going to make, we're going to use about 4 tablespoons of butter. We'll let that melt up. Let me grab see how these are cooking. Oh, beautiful. So we're ready to put them on. Put the grease side down on your paper towel. This is going to allow it to soak up extra grease and make it nice and crispy. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got our first 3 fillets done. We'll let those sit, and then I'm going to pop in the second 3. Now these are big chicken fillets. Again, don't overcrowd your pan.
Can you go over the breading one more time?
Ooh, yes, that one dropped 1 second. There we go. So the breading, we start out with 2 cups of flour. Then we added in about 2 tablespoons of onion powder, a half a tablespoon of paprika, 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, a tablespoon of garlic, salt, and I think I mentioned all of it. Yep, and pepper. Yep. And we mix all those together. Then we dredge it, and then after the first dredge, we add in some seasoned panko breadcrumbs to make it extra delicious and crunchy. And then you do your second dredge with that and fry up in olive oil over medium heat. Okay, my butter is going. I'm going to turn this down to about a 5. With butter, you can't keep it as high as with oil because of the milk solids. So we're going to keep it a nice medium heat. We're going to add in our minced up onion here. And let me grab a little spatula. We're going to kind of coat it up. We're going to caramelize these, bring out their nice little flavor, and then we're going to add in some garlic. But it already smells wonderful. There we go.
Do you prefer stainless steel pans or non-stick?
It really depends what I'm cooking. So I have both my hex-clad and my all-clad. This is what I call my pasta pot. It's the 6-quart saute pan. I love this for like cooking up vegetables, stuff that isn't necessarily gonna stick on there like with a skin or anything, but it has a good lip so I can make my sauces and throw my pasta in it. And I really love these. I got this collection when I was married like 17 years ago. So they've tried and true. They last. They're great. They're wonderful. I've had my Hexclad for about 2 years. I haven't scratched them or anything like that. So they truly have been nonstick or whatnot. And I love these for like frying up or anything that I really want to have delicate where I don't ruin the skin on it, or fish or proteins. I love this. I am a firm believer you kind of need both in the kitchen. You can't just have one pan over that. It does a non-stick, especially like with eggs or anything like that, or you cook something with a skin on it that, you know, can stick to the pan. It can really, you know, it makes it easier. It makes it to where you don't have to make sure your pan is completely hot and well oiled to get that non-stick, because you can get essentially a non-stick with a metal pan, but you have to make sure you've got it well oiled and nice and hot to do that. Okay, we've got our garlic minced here. I'm going to start shredding up some fresh Parmesan. I do have some pre-packaged Parmesan, but we're going to use a mixture. Fresh is always better, but it takes a hot minute sometimes to shred up fresh Parmesan, so I like to use a little mixture of it. When I'm kind of coating it on my pasta at the very end, fresh is nicer, but we're going to use a little mixture for this. There we go. I keep joking with my husband that I need to buy one of those Parmesan wheels, because we go through so much Parmesan cheese, especially my oldest daughter. She's the one who wants me to do it like a waiter, where I grate it and she tells me when, but she likes literally like a cup of Parmesan cheese on her pasta. And I'm like, I'm not going to grate this forever.
You have a question. Could you use a garlic press instead of chopping it?
You know what? Theoretically, you can. I just never really liked garlic presses because I just find that they never worked well. And it could be the fact that I've broken a couple garlic presses. It's just like the lime and lemon presses. They never work
You
well.
used to use your garlic press twice a week.
I used to use my garlic press for a non-intended purpose of pounding out my meat. That's what I used my garlic press. Never for pressing garlic on there. The problem is you can't really just put a full clove in a garlic press. You've got to kind of chop it up a little bit to press it out to get those juices. It's supposed to bring out more flavor and whatnot. I will say garlic is always fine. I know a lot of people love to hate on garlic, but guess what? Sometimes convenience rules. You know, and if you're busy and you don't want to do it, especially if you have to peel off the skin of your garlic, nobody likes that. You know what, just use some on there. I will say the main difference between garlic and fresh garlic is garlic definitely has more acidity to it. So you kind of have just a more a little like acidic flavor to it. Okay, let's get our garlic in here. This is a good amount of garlic, guys. It's like 1/4 of a cup, well over 1/4 of a cup, but it's gonna be delicious. Here we go. Kind of coat this up. Let those hot there. I'm going to add just a smidge more butter in here because garlic needs butter. There we go. I don't often use cook with butter in like my main dishes. I mostly use oil, but when I do use butter. Now baking, on the other hand, I bake primarily with butter. I never use oil when baking. Here we go. There, oh, it smells so wonderful. Okay, now that the garlic, I will say, give your garlic about a minute or so in the pan. It doesn't need, you don't want to cook it too long because garlic will go from being perfect, golden, beautiful, to being burnt really quick. So I'm going to flip our chicken here, and then we will get our pumpkin in there. There we go. Look at this nice, beautiful golden colors. Just looking fabulous. And I've got my pumpkin puree. So if you were with us at lunch today, we made a delicious pumpkin scones with some, we made a brown sugar glaze on them. So I have about a cup of pumpkin left, a smidge more, because I only needed a 1/2 cup in my scones, which is perfect. for this because this is going to be that kind of pumpkin-y base to it. So we're going to put it in here and treat it just as if you were going to treat tomato paste. So saute it up with this onions and garlic first, give it some flavor. Just makes it lovely. Here we go. And again, I'm cooking this over like a medium heat, right at a 5. Okay. We're gonna let this saute for a second while I get our starchy water over here.
And question?
Mix in some chicken bouillon.
What's a foolproof meal that the whole family loves?
It's such a basic. I will say steak. If I can do anything with steak, that is a foolproof meal. Now, everybody, all the kids will love this meal. Everyone will love this meal. My husband doesn't like pasta, so that's the only thing that he doesn't like on it. So we are going to take a big scoop of chicken bouillon in here, and this is going to help flavor up this pasta water. Now we did add some salt into that starchy water, so it should be nice and lovely, but the chicken bouillon with the pumpkin is going to give you the savory flavor that you need. Kind of takes out some of those sweeter notes in the pumpkin because I like my sauce to be more savory. We're going to add in just a little at first, and we're going to just mix it in. And we will add a little bit of cream in this later to, of course, make it a Parmesan cream sauce, but start with this so you don't have to use as much cream. There we go. And then just slowly add it in. You don't want to just dump it all in because, again, I'm not sure if I'm going to use all of this starchy water, but I like to add it in little by little until I see what consistency I'm at, because you dump it in and if it's too runny, then you've got to reduce it down, and that's just a lot of extra work.
Man, your chat is hammering me for not liking pasta.
I know, he's a weird one, guys. Now, he does like my homemade ravioli. That, I think, is the only pasta he likes. But when I make spaghetti and meatballs, he eats meatballs and garlic bread. He's an odd one, guys. I mean, there's like whole food groups he avoids. Most vegetables, beans, sauces. He doesn't like gravies or sauces. I know, it's just, oh, yeah, just sad. He's just missing out on this whole world and this experience.
You want to film this?
You know, I will say he eats more variety now than he did when we first met. Although not the very first couple of dates. He ate everything I made with a smile on. He did not turn down a single vegetable. And then we got married and he was like, no green ever again. There we go. Okay, I'm going to reserve just a little bit. I've got about a 1/4 left. So I've used a little over a cup of this on here. Get this going. And we're going to bring it up to about a 6, so just slightly higher. Delicious. We are going to add in now a little bit of onion powder. About a tablespoon. This is going to give a really nice savory note to it, which is just going to be lovely. Give that a good stir. Let me check my chicken here. See if we're all frying up nicely. Beautiful. It's almost ready there. I'm going to just give a nice little rotate. Let's see how you guys are doing right here. Pretty close. I'm going to rotate. This is my hot end of my stove. It always cooks a little better up there, so I always do a mid-rotation there. Okay, let's start. We're going to add in, I've got some freshly grated, and then I've got some not so freshly grated Parmesan cheese. I have a couple bags that I want to get through. It was like last night making pizzas. I had so many bags of like mozzarella cheese with just the smallest amounts in it. It just collects in my cheese drawer. And so I always like to make sure to go through there, use them up. We're going to try to put about a cup of Parmesan in here. We're going to start with about a 1/3 cup right now. So between that, I've probably got, well, maybe a little more than a 1/3. But we're going to mix it in. We're not going to mix it in all at one time. on there, but we're gonna do it in stages so that it doesn't just like burn and scald to the bottom of our pan. There we go. For this, we're gonna put a little bit of cream in here because we're getting to the end. I'm just gonna check our bread. Oh, beautiful. 2 minutes left on our sourdough. We're gonna add about, I wanna say, a 1/3 cup of cream. I don't think we'll need any more than that, but you wanna have that nice kind of creamy richness to it.
You have a question? Have you ever tried a stainless steel chopping board?
I have not tried a stainless steel chopping board. I have probably 20,000 cutting boards. It's a ridiculous number. I have a lot of them. I've used like marble ones before, and I really didn't like the hard firmness of it. And so I didn't think I would like the stainless steel because it is now hard and firm. Now, I have cooked in like an industrial kitchen where you can chop on that metal before, and I just never really enjoyed that on there. But I just love my tried and true classic cutting board that I've had for like 20 years on there for it. So I'm gonna just slide this guy over here since we're done with this. And let's finish up our sauce. I'm gonna turn this down nice to about a 4. We're gonna get ready to add in our noodles here in just a second, but I wanna make sure, see if we're missing anything. Feel like I need a hit of something. Let's see. Let's do a little bit of Italian spices metal in here. I'm gonna do about a teaspoon and a half of Italian spices. Kind of bring in a little bit of flavor, and then I think I want a little bit of pepper. Bring it down just nice and low. Because I've got all this great thing, and I've got this subtle, let me grab my pepper right over here. And I have this subtle pumpkin flavor to it. But it needs a little pepper, about a half a teaspoon. There we go. We'll mix that in, and I think we're good. And we've already got this just lovely kind of thick sauce to this. And let's go grab our sourdough while this simmers, and then we'll add our noodles in. Much better, perfect. Let's get this right here. I find that with pumpkin, you've got to have those seasonings just right. Because when I do pumpkin savory, you want to make sure it doesn't get too fruity. Here is our sourdough loaf. We got a nice little peak on here. I was so afraid when I woke up the next morning, because I wake up fairly early, around 5:45 in the morning, and I came out and I saw it on the counter, and I was like, ooh, I was supposed to shake that up 6 hours ago. But it did great. Yesterday and today's proofed up. They popped up pretty darn good for being left on the counter for an extra 6 hours of proofing. This is our traditional sourdough loaf on there. Extra proofed. But my little cute little score is up. I always take it out because you want to get that nice kind of golden brown crust to it. And it turned out pretty darn good. Okay, well, let's get ready to add our pasta in, and then we'll add some more Parmesan cheese, and then we'll be ready. Okay, don't worry. Remember how I told you guys, don't coat it in any oil or butter, because that would prevent the sauce from soaking in. So all you have to do is you've just got to spoon up the sauce on here, and then it will start to break apart. Let me grab my tongs, because tongs are the best way to do this. There we go. I know, I feel like growing up we were always like taught, toss your noodles in oil or butter. But the problem is if you do that, they kind of prevent the sauce from kind of sinking in their flavors on the noodles, and that's what you want. So we cook these to a perfect kind of right before an al dente. That way when we toss them in our sauce here, they're gonna soak up some of that flavor. It makes it just beautiful. Growing up, I also always say this, but you know, whenever you had pasta, you had your noodles and you had your sauce, and they were never combined. Combine them. These will taste much better the next day. Your noodles won't turn into a big starchy blob, and they'll have so much more flavor. Beautiful. Okay, let's get our green onions cut up, and then we're gonna put in a little bit more Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna turn this guy off so he's just got some residual heat. I've got 3 green onions. This is just gonna add, again, a little fresh flavor.
Marla and Judy sent you a gift.
Oh, well, thank you guys. We really appreciate that. Here we go. So, I'm using green onions. You could also do parsley if you want a more mild flavor, or even some fresh basil. So we'll get this. We'll mix that in, and then I'm going to grate a little bit more Parmesan cheese. And then, of course, when we serve it, we will have more. Always more and more and more.
You had a question, what kind of pasta?
This is a pumpkin Parmesan cream pasta with garlic and onions and pumpkin and cream and Parmesan. Has pretty much everything in there, but delicious. Okay. Let's give this a good stir, kind of coat it up. Beautiful. And we are going to be ready to serve up our dinner. We slide this, guys. Right.
And what kind of noodles?
These are called cicatelli. I had to make sure I said it. Cicatelli. It's Cicatelli. Cicatelli. I'm on a spelling bee now. Noodles. It was part of my box set of 6 that I got from Costco, and I'm gonna say I have loved every one of those noodles there. They were all just a little bit different, a little bit fun, a little bougie, and you know, I almost did my dinosaur noodles. I bought some dinosaur noodles. I almost did them, but I feel like they'll be great for mac and cheese. Okay, let's get ready to serve up dinner. Make sure I've got my sourdough. And let's get a plate. Set up a flat surface here. Knowing my luck, I'll do it and it will whoop, fall over. Okay, now we would not be complete without our shovel. And let me grab my tongs for our chicken. Okay, for dinner today, we have our hand-breaded and fried Italian seasoned chicken cutlet. So we seasoned up our chicken breading with panko breadcrumbs, Italian seasoning, garlic, salt, onion powder, and lots and lots of Italian seasoning. And we're gonna serve that with our pumpkin Parmesan cream pasta, where we used a whole cup of pumpkin in here, fresh garlic, onions, green onions, Italian seasoning, and just loads and loads of Parmesan for the best pasta ever. And we will serve it with a nice big hunk of our sourdough bread on there that we just baked up. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for what we made, so our Italian chicken and pumpkin pasta, and you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in there. So I have all of the hex-clad pans that I use, as well as my all-clad, my knives, my cutting boards, all the different gadgets I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here.